Good evening, it's Wednesday the 25th of June and here's what's making news around the world on World News Tonight. Ceasefire alert. Trump's diplomatic pressure temporarily eases rising tensions between Israel and Iran amid regional unrest. Space milestone. India achieves historic space launch, marking return to human spaceflight after 4 decades. Pet support. Nationwide virtual drive launched to provide essential food and care for pets of people in hardship.
From Colombo, this is World News Tonight with Aquil Qureshi.
Good evening once again. US President Donald Trump brokered a fragile ceasefire between Israel and Iran after a 12-day exchange of strikes, urging both nations to halt violations. Despite mutual accusations and claims of victory, the truce holds for now, while intense diplomacy continues.
U.S. President Donald Trump gave a strong warning to both Israel and Iran, accusing them of violating the ceasefire that he had announced earlier. According to the Associated Press, Trump on Tuesday expressed frustration with Israel for retaliating against Iran and called Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, urging him to stop the attacks.
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel.
Trump also emphasized that he does not want to see regime change in Iran, which he said would lead to chaos.
No, I don't want it. I'd like to see everything calm down as quickly as possible. Regime change takes chaos, and ideally we don't want to see so much chaos.
This comes as tensions flared again just hours after the ceasefire between Israel and Iran took effect on Tuesday. Israel accused Iran of violating the ceasefire with missile launches, while Iran denied the claims. The ceasefire appears to be holding for now, though, after Trump's outburst at both sides. Israel and Iran both claimed victory in their recent conflict. Israel said it had removed 2 major threats: Iran's nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles.
Dear citizens of Israel, during the 12 days of the Operation Rising Lion, we achieved a historic victory, and this victory will stand for generations.
Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz said on social media that Israel will respect the ceasefire as long as the other side does. The military chief of staff Eyal Zamir said that Israel's military is shifting its focus back to Gaza. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian said Tehran would only hit Israel if it violates the ceasefire deal. He also expressed his country's readiness to resolve disputes with the U.S. within an international framework. All eyes are on the coming hours to see whether the ceasefire between Israel and Iran will hold.
Veteran astronaut Peggy Whitson launched today aboard SpaceX's Crew Dragon for Axiom Mission 4, joining by crew from India, Poland and Hungary on their country's first ISS visits in over 40 years. This marks another milestone in private international spaceflight.
Peggy Whitson, a record-breaking former NASA astronaut, launched early Wednesday from Kennedy Space Center in Florida, now flying as a private astronaut with Axiom Space. She leads the AX-4 mission, the 4th commercial flight to the International Space Station, organized by Axiom in partnership with SpaceX. The crew lifted off aboard a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket at 2:31 a.m. EDT, riding inside the Crew Dragon capsule. Live video captured the spacecraft soaring into the night sky, with onboard cameras showing the 4 astronauts calmly seated in their flight suits, ready for the roughly 24-hour journey to the orbiting laboratory. This mission is historic for several reasons. Most notably, it includes the first astronauts from India, Poland, and Hungary to visit the ISS. While these nations have long been involved in space exploration through satellites and science missions, this marks their inaugural human presence aboard the station. Their participation highlights Axiom Space's vision of expanding access to space beyond traditional power players. For India, in particular, this mission precedes its own planned human spaceflight program, and for Poland and Hungary, it marks a revival of their human spaceflight ambitions since the Cold War era. The AX-4 launch comes at a time when commercial spaceflight is rapidly reshaping how humans reach low Earth orbit. The mission had faced minor delays due to technical checks on the ISS, but now proceeds with the goal of conducting scientific experiments and public outreach during their time on board. Whitson's role is especially symbolic. Once NASA's chief astronaut, she is now at the forefront of a new era where private companies, former agency professionals, and emerging nations collaborate in space. With AXIM planning its own space station by the late 2020s, missions like this are setting the stage for a broader, more inclusive future in orbit.
A violent brawl involving up to 50 construction workers erupted outside a building site in Castle Hill, Sydney's northwest yesterday. The altercation led to minor injuries and the termination of several construction workers and an ongoing police investigation.
A subby smackdown descends into an all-in brawl.
Hey, don't record.
The Blue, involving more than 20 tradies, kicking off in front of the Meriton apartment development in Castle Hill around 7 this morning. One man was kicked in the head with steel-capped boots. Another smashed with a hard hat.
Crazy.
Both were taken to hospital. It's understood the fight originally started between two form workers over a pay dispute before their colleagues jumped in, spilling out over Sexton Avenue, the group leaving before police arrived. In a statement, Meriton said it does not condone any violence on its job sites and that no direct Meriton employees were involved in the incident.
Severe weather warnings persist across South Australia as a powerful cold front continues to impact the region. The Bureau of Meteorology has issued alerts for damaging winds, heavy rainfall and hazardous coastal conditions, urging residents to exercise in caution.
A storm surge packing a powerful punch. This seaside spectacle along Adelaide's coast drawing plenty of onlookers. But with the photo opportunities, which were closer for some than others, came the hazards like this at Port Noarlunga and at some locations, real danger.
We really do ask people to stay away, particularly with young children. The areas down around our coastline will have high tides, it will have very fast flowing water. There won't be a beach as such, so anyone that does go into that water has a significant risk of being severely injured or unfortunately killed if they were to get into that water.
That warning remains in place right now as tides peak or just begin to recede. This a second storm surge to hit South Australia in 24 hours and the more powerful of the two. Businesses close to the beach, like the Broadway kiosk at Glenelg, sandbagged to prevent as much damage as possible, some still being repaired from a similar storm last month. Dangerous sea levels not just in Adelaide but also in the state's southeast. This was the jetty at Port Macdonald disappearing under the swell, while streets in Kingston were inundated as the tide got higher and higher. The sea flowing not only into streets but also foreshore creeks, which then also overflowed. The same winds that whipped up the waters also felled trees across the suburbs and the hills. Gusts of more than 90 kilometres an hour recorded. These conditions expected to continue into tonight.
A severe heat wave driven by a massive heat dome has placed over 150 million Americans under extreme heat alerts. Cities from Mississippi to Massachusetts are experiencing record-breaking temperatures exceeding 100 Fahrenheit, prompting health warnings and emergency measures.
Tonight, dangerous searing heat for millions. Power grids strained to the max. Anyone working outside is risking their life. Near Boston, 105-degree heat index in Norfolk. 2 firefighters battling a blaze rushed to the hospital for heat exhaustion. FDNY Manhattan Borough Commander Brian Gorman telling me the protective gear that keeps firefighters safe also makes them swelter. Across the Philadelphia area, where they hit the century mark.
We're out here digging trenches. Look at me. I'm soaked.
Workers like Denny Sharp and Roy Jones Jr. just trying to survive. Doctors say it's crucial for workers to look out for each other.
So my advice to them is frequent cooling, but also to work in a buddy system so that you can monitor each other for signs of heat illness.
In New York City, as the mercury hit a record-breaking 99 degrees, fans cranking at voting stations, thousands braving the heat to vote in the race for mayor, including candidate and former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Yeah, it's a little warm, but today is the day.
In Queens, Con Edison handing out dry ice to thousands of elderly customers who lost power Monday. Officials begging all city residents to conserve energy.
Let's jump into a short commercial break. More world news on the other side. Welcome back. Reports revealed US intelligence assessed Iran's nuclear program was only set back months despite claims of severe damage. Today, NATO leaders, including Hungary's Viktor Orban, debated defense spending ahead of summit in The Hague, emphasizing alliance strengthening and burden sharing.
Media reports exposed a significant gap between official US administration claims and intelligence assessments regarding recent strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. While President Trump and his Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth insisted the attacks had inflicted severe and devastating damage, setting back Iran's program substantially, leaked Defense Intelligence Agency documents suggested otherwise. The DIA reportedly assessed the strikes caused only a minor delay, pushing Iran's nuclear progress back by a few months rather than obliterating it entirely. Both Trump and Hegseth questioned the credibility of the intelligence report, emphasizing its preliminary and low-confidence status. Trump even likened the strike's impact to the decisive effects of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings, framing the operation as the key factor in the conflict, a powerful statement underscoring the administration's narrative. NATO leaders gathered in The Hague for a pivotal summit. Defense spending and alliance cohesion dominated discussions. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban took a notably critical stance, downplaying Russia's threat to NATO's security and questioning the alliance's involvement in Ukraine. Orban argued that Europe's real danger lies in its loss of global competitiveness rather than external military threats. Meanwhile, other member states like Greece and Belgium stressed the importance of fair burden sharing, urging all NATO countries to meet or exceed new defense spending targets. The summit saw agreement to raise core defense spending goals from 2% to 3.5% of GDP, plus an additional 1.5% for related infrastructure like cybersecurity and military transport. Spain's position to meet commitments without reaching the high spending target added nuance to the alliance's debate on equitable contributions. These developments come at a critical moment for NATO as it balances geopolitical challenges with internal political dynamics. The mixed messages from the US administration regarding Iran's nuclear setback raise questions about intelligence, transparency, and strategic communication. Simultaneously, NATO's effort to unify members around increased defense commitments faces hurdles, including differing national priorities and economic constraints. The tension between maintaining a robust deterrent posture against external threats and managing internal alliance cohesion reflects broader shifts in global security. As the summit progresses, the decisions made will shape NATO's capacity to respond effectively to future crises, and underscoring the delicate balance between military readiness and political consensus in a rapidly evolving geopolitical landscape.
A devastating landslide in the Colombian town of Belo killed at least 10 people yesterday, injuring 15 and leaving 15 missing. Rescue efforts continue today as authorities evacuate vulnerable families and provide shelter and support to those affected by ongoing risks.
The landslide in Belo, located in Colombia's Antioquia department, struck early in the morning amid heavy rains that have battered the region. The sudden movement of earth and debris overwhelmed several neighborhoods, destroying homes and infrastructure. Authorities immediately launched search and rescue operations, aided by local volunteers, to locate survivors trapped beneath the rubble. As of now, 10 fatalities have been confirmed, with at least 15 injured and another 15 people unaccounted for. Emergency responders face difficult conditions navigating unstable terrain and persistent rainfall, complicating efforts to reach those still missing. In response to the disaster, Colombian government officials coordinated evacuations of families living in high-risk zones prone to further landslides. Temporary shelters were quickly established at community centers and schools to house displaced residents, offering basic necessities alongside psychosocial support to help families cope with trauma. The event underscores the vulnerability of many mountainous Colombian communities, where deforestation, heavy seasonal rains and informal settlements increase the risk of such deadly landslides. Authorities have urged residents to remain vigilant and heed evacuation orders to prevent further casualties as weather forecasts warn of continuing instability. Today, the search and rescue mission continues amid a race against time to find survivors and prevent additional loss of life. Emergency teams work closely with local agencies to assess damage and deliver humanitarian aid. National disaster response units have been mobilized to assist regional efforts, while geologists monitor the area for signs of renewed earth movement. The Colombian government has pledged resources to support recovery and reconstruction, but long-term solutions to mitigate landslide risk remain a present challenge. As families grapple with loss and uncertainty, this strategy highlights the urgent need for improved infrastructure, early warning systems and environmental protections in vulnerable regions.
Nearly 150 people were reportedly jabbed with syringes at music festival across France, including Paris, during the annual Fête de la Musique celebration yesterday. Authorities have arrested 12 suspects, launching investigations into the alarming series of attacks.
A day of celebration across France turned into a nightmare for dozens of mainly women attending the country's annual street music festival. The French Interior Ministry telling 145 people reported being pricked by needles in attacks and multiple assaults nationwide, 13 in Paris alone. And there was concern before the event. A social media influencer shared a chilling post telling women to be careful.
Que faire si vous avez été drogué? Je vous le laisse un petit peu comme ça vous laisse le temps de screen.
And what to do if they're attacked, saying there had been calls online to assault women with needles. The mayor of Metz, a city in eastern France, said one suspected assailant was arrested and that about 15 women and girls had been attacked there. Overall, the Interior Ministry reports 12 people have been arrested so far, with authorities expressing concern that social media is amplifying these calls to attack women in large public gatherings like this one.
Sudan's humanitarian crisis deepened with over 17 million children out of school and thousands kidnapped or killed since fighting erupted in April 2023. The UN reported a sharp rise in child right violation amid ongoing conflicts between SAF and RSF forces.
Since the outbreak of violence between Sudan's Sudanese Armed Force and the rival Rapid Support Forces in April 2023, the humanitarian situation has drastically worsened, particularly for children. According to Sudan's National Council for Child Welfare, more than 17 million children are currently out of school, a stark increase from 7 million before the conflict. The war has also led to at least 5,000 children being kidnapped or missing and 3,000 confirmed deaths among minors. The widespread displacement, destruction of infrastructure, and insecurity have severely disrupted education. Destruction of infrastructure and insecurity have severely disrupted education, healthcare, and essential services, leaving millions of children vulnerable to neglect and abuse. Today, the United Nations highlights an alarming 21% increase in grave violations against children during 2023 alone. The UN report identifies multiple parties responsible for killings, maiming, and attacks on schools and hospitals, pushing the crises to extreme levels. The conflict has fueled forced recruitment of child soldiers, sexual violence, and slavery, with tens of verified cases of children coerced into fighting for the RSF. UNICEF representative Mandeep O'Brien has noted the jump in acute malnutrition among children from 3 million before the war to nearly 4 million now. This mounting toll on children underscores the immense challenges faced by humanitarian actors attempting to deliver aid and protect vulnerable populations amid ongoing violence. International mediation efforts have so far failed to halt the fighting or bring relief to Sudan's suffering population. As the conflict stretches into its third year, millions of families remain caught in the crossfire, struggling with daily survival. For Sudanese children, each day carries profound hardship but also hope. Hope for peace to restore safety, education, and the simple joys of childhood lost to war. Without an end to the conflict, the tragic toll on Sudan's youngest generation will only deepen, threatening the country's future for years to come.
Time for a short commercial break now. We'll be right back with more news right here on Other Derana 24. Welcome back. Artist Sunny Mills, who lost her home in the devastating Asian fire in Altadena, California, is using a historic tintype photography technique to memorialize the community losses. Her work honors neighbors affected by the devastating and destructive wildfire.
Like so many who lost so much in the flames that raged through the heart of historic Altadena, photographer Sunny Mills found herself floating adrift in a sea of despair. Her home, one of nearly 10,000 structures destroyed by the Eaton fire 5 months ago. Sunny couldn't move on because nothing about it felt real until this moment. A self-portrait captured using a centuries-old craft put her back on solid ground. Sunny snaps with a style of photography called tintype, a chemical method of producing a photo on a thin sheet of metal. That singular self-portrait gave her a space to heal.
Describe to me.
Using cameras donated from fellow enthusiasts, she's sharing that space and connection with the community.
In 3, 2, 1. 1,000, 2 1,000.
Sunny has snapped more than 200 tintypes of her Altadena neighbors, men and women, friends and families, young children and town elders. Sunny says sharing something solid is binding hearts. Metallic memories forging a new future.
A virtual pet food drive has been launched to support the growing number of pets belonging to people facing hardship and homelessness. This winter, the initiative aims to provide nutritious food and care for vulnerable animals across affected communities. Take a look.
Bursting with energy, 3-year-old Cougar brings the Okirua family so much joy.
We all love him very much, you know. I couldn't see our family without him.
But with 5 kids and the cost of living biting, they were forced to consider it.
There was a point where we were looking at having to give him up for adoption because things are just getting too tough.
That's when Pets of the Homeless stepped in, taking the stress of buying dog food off the table. Now the charity's launched a virtual pet food drive to help a record number of people struggling.
It's just as simple as going online, making a pet food purchase, and then we will actually repackage the food and then we will distribute it out to the community.
Those who need it can collect it from 76 organisations across the state.
Usually we provide about 40,000 meals every single month. We're now looking at close to about 80,000 meals a month that we're providing.
All donations will be doubled until June 30.
If people can help in any way, shape or form, it would really make a difference, like it has made a difference for us.
And with that, we come to the end of today's edition of the World News Tonight. With the hopes of seeing you again, I'm Akwel Qureshi, and we'll leave you tonight with the visuals of a Peruvian honouring ancient Inca Sun Festival traditions. Also, don't forget to send in your feedback through our email address on feedback.ad24english@derana.lk or via WhatsApp on 076 805 7933. And until then, we do have Anuradha Vikramasinghe joining you next on Nightly Business Report. Thank you for watching. Good night.